Are you recording?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I see it now. Okay, I'm going to be flipping back and forth quite a bit, so I'll try to.
Before you get started, Art, what do you
Yeah.
think of Teams?
It's working well.
It's nice, eh?
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's good, especially with being able to record now. I mean, we haven't used it all that much, but that's pretty powerful. So,
Yep.
All right. So I'm gonna just go into this RMA that I just created this morning. It's just up to this status, customer notified. I didn't want to go through the whole thing, and so then once the parts are received, then I display that. I've got the facility. You select that. Let's say plant 3. The location, since you have multiple docks or possibility of multiple docks, I got to have it as a selection.
Yep.
Number of bins, say 3, and we don't know the parts yet, So then I've got this print quick receive labels.
Okay.
So then proceed to print 3 RMA bin labels. Yes. I don't know if you can hear that.
Yeah.
Hit printing. All right, and no, I'm surprised it didn't show here. Let's do an update. There we go. Okay. So then it's got those 3 serial numbers, and it's got the location. And now I can show you, also go over to, let's see, scan to move. So let's say I'm going to move this 1. And I'm going to move it. I think there's a little bug in my copy of this scan and move. So I'm just going to put in, I think hold is a valid location, and move to, let's see. All right. Hold. All right. So then so that was, I scanned 127. So if I come back here and come back in, it'll show that.
Oh yeah.
127 is at hold, so it'll reflect the location of every bin within the RMA as it's moved around. I'm assuming that it's just going to be moved, maybe more than once, but typically just the one time to the hold area, right?
Yeah. My understanding is it'll go there to be inspected and dispositioned.
Right. Okay, so that was quite a bit of work just to get that in there. The printing. I just created my own simple RMA label with some standard tokens that I sent you. The RMA number, the box number, or one of 3, 2 of 3, 3, that kind of thing. Part number, part description, date, time, and the serial number. So those are some basic. We'll create a basic simple RMA label for you. Probably take your WIP label and simplify it, change a little bit, and then it can be moved around. All right, so now I'm going to go back to this other one because this is the one that I have actual dummy 2D part serial numbers that I can enter. So it's in a point where they entered the parts received, and inventory was adjusted, and then once you get inventory adjusted, then you're in the dispositioning mode per se. It's not dispositioned yet, all of them, right? You could have 100 parts that you got to deal with, so the overall status doesn't change to disposition until it's all done.
Okay.
Currently,
Good.
That's how I have it. I didn't, I don't know if we need an intermediate, like a in-process disposition type status or something like that, or.
I don't think so.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Because if you're back here, and I'm looking at this one here, the status is inventory adjusted. So, what if they're halfway through a large RMA, of dispositioning? It's gonna, it may stay in this state for quite a while, and then all of a sudden when it's done, it's dispositioned. Somebody looking at this might say,
you're thinking,
they're not making any progress.
Yeah, you're thinking maybe saying disposition and process, or dispositioning with maybe a tally that says 3 of 5.
Could be.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't hurt for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, the more functionality, the better, I suppose.
Yeah. All right. So, so we're here. I just changed some colors here just to make it a little bit more interesting. Get this down for the moment. And all right. So, you've got scanning good, scanning scrap. I'm going to scan another one here to good. Let's see. So this is my dummy part number, 2D label. All right, and then once you're done scanning, you would hit cancel, and then it stops and it puts it here. So it's not dispositioned yet. It's just in this box here. And I had a question to myself of whether or not you needed to actually disposition. And what I mean by disposition completely is release all of the ties to the previous container, to the previous finished part number, all that kind of thing, so then it's usable. Once it's dispositioned, like this one here, it's actually usable, this serial number, where this one isn't. So if I were to take this, the one I just scanned, and try to scan it in pack out, before it's actually dispositioned, just ignore that. It's my little. So it's still, in its previous, state. It's not released yet, so you can't really pack that.
Just a quick question. For serial numbers that we know are in the RMA process, can we change that notification?
What do you mean?
Well, you just scanned one that we know that serial number is currently associated with an RMA and pending dispositioning. So can we change the pack out notification to say something a little more relevant?
Well, it's only going to be in this state until they actually disposition it. So, this serial number's here, and they're at the hold area. They're working. Let's say they're going to do it in batches of 10. Say there's 100 parts, and they'll do 10 of them, and then disposition, and then send them to the end of the line. And it's only at that time would they try to pack them.
Yeah.
They're not going to do what I just did.
No, I know. I'm just worried that, say they miss one, it goes to the line, they scan it, says it's in.
Well, I'm not going to allow it to go into disposition state unless all of these are dispositioned. You know what I mean? So they're not going to.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Okay, so if you tried to do the 2917, you couldn't pack it?
Oh, I could, because I dispositioned it. So if I did that one, that's. So let's say they did one of them and then sent it to the end of the line. So this 17 is now available, right? Because it was dispositioned. So if I scan that one, 17, again, that's my little, for some reason, my side codes are reversed. So I had to do some, so that one's scannable,
okay.
Right? Because
I'm just worried about the potential for one of those parts being missed, making it to the line, they scan it, it says it's in another bin, so then they try and open that bin, it says it's already shipped.
Right.
I just thought if we could potentially, if it wasn't a significant amount of effort to just say, hey, you know what, this is actually part of an RMA number, whatever.
Well, let me look at, let's see, here's the 17. This is one thing, and then go to, here's 17. Okay, I put that in there already. I made the code change so that when I do disposition it, the old finished part number record, which is this one, I delete that one.
Yep.
And then I put, instead of deleted in the parent serial number, I'm saying RMA returned.
Good. That's
so good. It'll have, I might change the serial number locator to, I don't know, put this in yellow or something. I know those are rejects, but RMA returned. At least you know what it was removed, and yeah. So you got some visibility. Now realize, I mean, you can't right now. We can't scan those two big 2D barcodes in serial number locator. It doesn't know how to interpret that big 2D barcode and interpret and generate the serial number. So another reason to embed the full serial number at the end, so it would that would be some simple code, because it was a lot of code. It's a lot of code to interpret all that, and especially all the different methods. We got top down, bottom up, and all this stuff.
Why did we ever do that?
I don't know. Yeah, and then of course, Decofimix has 3-digit work center, and just different scripting, all that. Anyways, so again, scanning these parts into I could scan this one into. Oh, did I hold on? Did I already do that? 228 I already have 228. But that makes sense. If I wanted to remove that, say, oh no, that one's good. I think I showed this before. It'll prompt you. This part already been scanned, scrapped. Should it be removed? Yes. I made detail, and then you could scan it here. Make if it were good. Again, okay. So now we've got 2 there. So now let's say they want to get these to the end of the line. It's going to go through this list and when I press this button, it's going to disposition any of them that have not already been dispositioned.
Okay.
And so it releases everything. Now, there's one question I just thought of too, is because when they adjust inventory, they're adjusting for the finished packed part number, right?
Yes. Yes, they are.
All right. So when I think I've got to do a delete if I disposition 2. So I'm putting these 2 manufactured parts back in inventory. In order to get them really on inventory and transfer them, I have to delete 2 finished parts.
Right. Yep.
So I've got to add a delete, which I didn't have since yesterday. But if I disposition, I hit it twice. I accidentally hit it. It did it the first time. So they're dispositioned. So now, if I go to, let's say, take this second one, and I wanted to scan it and pack out. Again, it would, let's say you're going for service, or that, then it's allowed to be packed. So, so that's where I'm at. Let's see, I've got RMA. I made some adjustments in here because there's oftentimes they might just be doing changes here. The status hasn't changed in this case, unless I add this new intermediate dispositioning status. But in this case, it hasn't changed. So let's say they get to this point and they hit done. DSGen, do you want to update before closing? Yes. Do you want to need now? I noticed that I didn't change the status, but maybe I don't want to change it at this point. So it's still inventory adjusted. We have it saved all of that data. That these are all dispositioned in that, but the status didn't change. It's still in a dispositioning state. I think it'd probably be better to have an intermediate status in between these two. Disposition started, disposition complete, like that. Mm-hmm. Just so that they can see progress on this. So,
yeah, I like that idea. I think that makes sense.
Yeah. So this is helping.
This is looking great, though. It's exciting.
Exciting.
Seriously, you have no idea the pain that Lotus Notes causes me daily.
Yeah.
It's terrible. Oh man.
Well, I mean, it doesn't integrate into the system.
Anything. Into anything.
Right.
And
so I mean, all of those labels got to reprint labels and.
Yeah. And it's just constant trying to check and balance. There's no controls. It's
right.
It served its purpose.
Yeah.
But it's time for it to go.
Now this all is dependent on the label, the good 2D label. Now, that's one of my questions or issues is what if the label is unreadable? And what do I do? They return, and then I haven't gotten to the point at the end where I'm and I didn't do scrap right now. I was just focusing on really the disposition of the good. So I haven't done disposition of scrap. But if they enter in 3 total parts received, but then they can only scan 2 of them, what do we do?
I guess we'd have to generate one.
But if it's scanned, it wasn't shipped. I mean, that's one of the check in the beginning. When you scan a serial number, it makes sure that it was shipped.
Yeah, I think I hear what you're saying, but I think we'd have to be safe to assume that it was shipped if it was returned by the customer, right?
So remove that.
I like that check. I like that check for things that are scannable, right? But for your concern in regards to a part that doesn't have a scannable label, I think we're safe to assume it shipped.
Right, but you go print one and then bring it back, and then the system doesn't know that that's all of a sudden now it's got a label. So it's either I check for the shipped, or I remove that, or I don't know, put an authorization on it. Because then, well, let's see, I got to think of all of the scenarios. I mean, even if we print a new label, then, because right now I'm not generating that manufactured part record. I'm adjusting it. Because these were already in the system, right? So they're, I remove the parent serial number, clear the parent serial number, and, I delete the finished part record. So then the manufactured record was already there,
I think for the instances that aren't scannable, I don't think we should be printing a part label for them, because these are supposed to go through the end-of-line processing anyways, and they could just print the label when they test it. So I think we just worry about everything else associated with that in terms of inventory and stuff, what limitations we have, how we can handle that. I mean, here's one of the things. Like, obviously, we want to develop an all-encompassing, as detailed as possible system with all the features that we need. However, I don't want to also make this such a monster that we can't achieve it, right? So right now, the system doesn't do anything other than label it, right? Really, and then track the status of the actual RMA label. There's no part detail whatsoever. So, if we can enhance on that as best we can, I think we're safe. It's just, I don't know. I don't think we want to get into printing part labels and stuff. I really don't.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't want to suggest to print the part label from here, because that's done by the PLC. Now this, I do have the ability to change that count, but it's a little awkward because when I come back in, even if I update, let's see, I'll come back. Did I change that? No. See, I calculate that. This is right now. It's calculated from the number that I scan. It's based on that. Do we need an extra field for unlabeled, or so you could enter in another edit box here with unlabeled parts that you would add manually? So the total count would be the ones that you scanned plus the ones that were unlabeled or unreadable. And like I said, I wouldn't have to do anything, I guess. Although when I got to keep track because I'm dispositioning in batches. I allow you to disposition in chunks, not, only when it's completed. So if I had a field here with, as you're dispositioning, it's 2, then later on you find another one, it's 3. I got to, and if they happen to disposition, now I have to, like I said, I have to delete that number of finished parts to back it out so that the manufacturing part number is actually in transform inventory, right? So I wouldn't, every time I do this, a batch of, dispositioning, I wouldn't want to include the number here, I think I'm gonna have to, maybe I have to have here something, no label 1, no label 2, something like that. So I keep track of the no labels in here, and then if I disposition them, they would get this disposition thing. So it would be taken care of, So and then if they came back and did scan some more and then found some more with no labels, those would need to be dispositioned, but not the ones that already were dispositioned. You follow me? That was a little confusing, but
I think so.
What I'm saying is, if I have a box here, an edit box with the counter or a value that you enter in or increment as you find parts with no labels, I have to keep track of which ones, when you disposition them, because I have to account for those numbers when I delete the finished part. So if there's 3 here, and let's say there were two
I'm
parts
with you. I'm with you. Totally.
So I got to delete. I have to delete 5 finished parts when I disposition. Right now, if you continue on and add, so there's 3, and then you change it to 4. But when I disposition the second batch, I don't want to include all those 4. It would just be the 2 more that I added that haven't been dispositioned but don't have part labels.
Right. I mean, it's. I think what I need to do is have a conversation with the quality manager and materials, and let's just determine how often that happens. I'm with you in the sense of system minds that it's possible, so we should make provisions for it. But maybe we don't need to. You know what I mean? Like maybe those exceptional situations that may have never happened before, for all we know, we just let them handle out a process, right? Like maybe we just make a statement that says, for you to be able to process these, they have to have serial numbers. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I need to talk because the inventory ramifications of it too, right? Like, I'm not sure how we best handle this, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I mean, because your volumes are so high. I mean, sure, when we're thinking about it right here, we got 1 or 2 part we're thinking of really small, but over time, you get these crazy little incorrect inventories, and we're just like rejects are seem to hang around,
and that's what I'm worried about is all of a sudden we've got this other facet that we need to factor in and investigate as far as did those parts actually exist or not? Did they type in 3 unscannable labels in error when there was only 2, or there wasn't any at all and they didn't understand the process, right?
Well, at the end, however I do it, I was going to have as a check that if they counted 3 parts total, and I'm assuming I still have that as a after parts are received and moved, and then somebody's going to count them, I still have that as a separate step.
Okay.
So if they count 3, they have to disposition 3. Whether they're labeled or unlabeled or scrap or what, the total count would have to equal this count.
Okay.
So that check is there, or it will be there. Another question. So no label, we might have to maybe add a button. I don't know. I'm thinking that I've got to add it in the list somehow, unlabeled. But let's say they disposition these 3, and more reasonably they're 20, 25, whatever, and they're going to put them in a container, and they want to be able, and now these are manufactured parts, and they want to be able to move those manufactured parts to anywhere, out of hold, and have it reflect in Transfer M. So, I'm assuming I've got to have some kind of a container label for these parts.
Yeah.
And you know that gets a little tricky too, because it's almost like I need pack out. You know, it'd almost be easier to have pack out do it, because, you know, as one possibility, but yet when we pack them and pack out, if we did go that route at this station, that it wouldn't pack them into finished parts, it would just pack them as manufactured parts. So the script would need to be different. You know, it wouldn't create the finish. It wouldn't prompt for a container type. It would just pack the manufactured parts. So then
Right.
you know that these three are in container 1, 2, 3. You know, they're actually assigned to it. If I just print out a label, it's sort of the same thing. How do I know what parts are in what container? It's
Yeah,
almost,
you have to scan them to them, right? Like,
right.
or pick them like from a list kind of thing, like you know how you're adding parts to molds, kind of click on the serial numbers and move them over and say print type thing. I don't know. Whatever works best. I mean, I'm not opposed to, like, we're gonna have a station set up that runs this, right? So if needs to be a button to activate Packout, then so be it. But I'm just trying to think. I mean, for RMA parts, I think pretty much all of them will be part serialized. We don't have much customer product that isn't, but
Right.
we do have some. And I'm just thinking, you know, when we start talking NCM too, you're going to want to be able to select product and have it in associated to a bin label. So I don't know if having like some kind of an interface where you pick serial numbers or lots of parts and just assign them to a label through some kind of dialogue like that, similar to like the mold thing, as opposed to actually scanning them in Packout. If that makes more sense or not, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that. It's almost the only. I'm thinking the only true way
I'm
would
trying
be
to
to
think
scan them,
too.
but it's additional scanning. But
I know, but I'm trying to think too about like we're saying, if we make provisions to account for unserialized parts or parts that have a parts label that we can't scan, all of a sudden we don't have a serialized part. How are we going to scan that to a container?
right.
Where if you're able to select a placeholder that says, you know, unknown serial 1, I mean, we'll probably term it a lot better than that, but just for the
Right.
sake of the conversation, and you select those unknown ones and you associate them to a container and print the label, just might make more sense.
Right. Well, find out on your end. Get some feedback on labeled. You know, if the possibility exists, and I guess we're going to have to account for it somehow. You know.
Well, I mean, the other thing too is, you know, it all needs to start with a conversation on this, and I'll talk to them to see like what is the possibility, because there's no point in doing a ton of development, waste a bunch of time if it's literally like never happens.
Yeah.
But you know, if the effort's substantial, you know, we really want to get this out there, right? So if it needs to be a phase 2 thing, we could always do that too, right? So
Are the part labels thermal transfer?
part labels.
The 3D.
Yes, they are thermal transfer.
Okay. And when they return them, it's usually pretty soon after they were shipped out, I would think. You know, once they're received. I mean, they're not returning stuff that's a year old, are they?
I wouldn't think so. I can't tell you that for certain, but I can't imagine that. I mean, the
Right.
customers, I would have to expect is doing FIFO. I mean, they're not gonna keep a bunch of inventory around. I mean, it just doesn't make business sense, right? So
Yeah.
they would make us keep it around, not them, right?
Right. All right.
This is awesome though, man. It's like I said, I'm excited to make this happen for sure.
Yeah. All right. So I think that's kind of what I have to show you so far.
Okay. I also
Yeah,
want to get clarification. I'm going to talk with materials about the whole, they're keying an RMA, which returns inventory at the finished good part type 5 level. And they're putting that inventory in hold somewhere. I want to understand what they're doing right now. Like, are they unbuilding those right now so that they can then be completely rescanned, right? Like, so I'll have
so
that conversation. Get that feedback.
unbuilding and transfer them just so that they're down back to the manufactured part.
I'm wondering if they're doing a complete for it to work right now, I think they'd have to do a complete unbuild, because they would have to run that those parts through the line and get whole new part labels in order to be able to scan them and pack them as the system sits right now.
Oh yeah, because it's nothing's releasing those old serial
Yeah,
numbers,
that's right.
right?
So I just want to have a definitive understanding of what they're currently doing. Because I think what you said, it makes the most sense that when we're dispositioning those parts are going to sit as packaged part type 5 part finished goods, and basically you'd have to unbuild the part type 5 so it sits as a part type 2, so that when they go to pack them, it's not it's inventory is correct. It's pulling the part type 2, and we don't have a growing abundance of part type 5s.
Okay, well, let's keep it at that. And then if your quality guys can take a look at this, Tina can get the video to you, whatever, recording, and then get some feedback.
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, that'd be handy, actually. Like, if I could have that, then I can review it with them. It doesn't use up your time.
And we could meet next week, if need be.
I think we should. I think we should keep this going.
Yeah.
Just to answer your question, Tina, I don't have anything else that's really like super pressing. This is kind of like the real focus of what we need to get done.
Okay.
I know Art master labels for production reporting is going to be happening, but I know you've already given us what we need, but it's just there might be some support in regards to that. But those are like the real critical things right now. But I think we should be keeping these meetings going, because you need the feedback, right?
Yeah.
To keep you
Yeah.
going.
Sometimes I get stuck on something and I don't want to keep going or skip it. I'm kind of going and sequentially through this process, and kind of want to firm up each step as I go.
So as far as that goes,
if I get too far ahead with on assumptions, then it gets really messy to try to clean it up and remove some code that I didn't need to, and all that kind of stuff.
So as far as that goes, Art, like if you need a impromptu 30-minute call at any given time, just send me an email and say, hey, can we meet today? And I'll let you know when I can.
All right.
No issues there.
Yeah. Okay. Tina, you can probably turn off the recording. So that's pretty much it for the demo.